Hello everyone and welcome to this week's Boo Woo movie review. I'm Daryl.
And I'm Dan.
And the movie this week is Rocky. So Rocky is a 1976 movie written by and starring Sylvester Stallone, and it's become a much-loved classic amongst moviegoers, spawning a whole series of films after it. It initially cost $1.1 million to make, and it took $225 million at the box office. What do you think, Dan?
It was, I think... I don't know if people had seen things like that before, because the storyline is... Well, actually, I don't know, because now I suppose that storyline has been done quite a few times, but then, I suppose, because it was 1976, wasn't it? So maybe it was a bit more... That storyline was more fresh then, but it is that sort of typical rags to riches story, isn't it? It's sort of been done quite a lot now.
It's kind of a classic story that people seem to love, don't they? It's yeah, like you said, it's the rags to riches. It's the kind of zero to hero sort of story. But it's quite interesting because I think, like, at the time, I know from interviews with Sylvester Stallone, he said that, you know, no one wanted to touch it, I don't think, initially. I think he took it to like quite a lot of different studios and things, and people didn't seem that interested in buying it. I think it took quite a lot to get the film off the ground. And then it's funny, like when you consider like how much it ended up taking, and like how, you know, it's such like a cult classic film, isn't it? And it is a really good film as well. It's really well done.
Yeah, I think it's very well made, I think. And like you said, I think to begin with, yeah, I think he'd struggled with trying to get a studio to take it on. But I think when they actually did, I know that they didn't actually want him to star in it, did they? They wanted to... they tried to buy the rights off him.
Oh, because he was a bit of an unknown. They didn't want him like, in the start.
I don't know the reasons actually why they didn't, but I think they wanted James Caan or Burt Reynolds to play Rocky.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but obviously he wouldn't... I think they tried to buy off him for like $340,000. Yeah, but he refused, and then because he wanted to play the main part himself. But yeah, I think he does a brilliant job, to be honest.
Can you imagine turning down that sort of money, though, from something you've written, just to sort of think...
I know.
You know, you could either have like 340,000, or just say no to someone, you know, and like walk away, and potentially it never gets seen again, or you never do anything with it. You know, I can't imagine like being in a situation where you have to make that sort of decision.
I know. I think that because he believed in it so much, like you said, because he wrote it. I think he must have believed so strongly that it was going to do very well, and... he was right on that one.
I get. Yeah, I just. I guess that's it.
Yeah,
believe in it.
It was a big gamble. It was a big gamble, but it paid off. And I mean, like, I think he suits the part. I think he is a bit of a... His character is a bit of a bum, really, isn't it?
yeah. But, it starts off. It's almost like. It's like a bit of a gangstery sort of film, really, isn't it? The thing that I like about it is it's a dark film, and I think it's a sign of the times that, you know, of that kind of era, really. Like, it's a bit like sort of Taxi Driver, and that it's got that sort of feel to it, hasn't it? It's got like quite a sort of you know, and like Midnight Cowboy and things like that. It's got quite sort of an edgy, sort of dark, grainy feel to it.
It's funny you should mention that Taxi Driver, because actually what I found quite interesting was because it won a few Oscars, didn't it? And I thought, you know, I was quite surprised by that. Not because, like, I don't think it's good, but I don't know. When I heard, I didn't think it ever won an Oscar. But saying about Taxi Driver, it actually won it. The category, it won it over Taxi Driver.
Oh, was it the same year? Was it? I didn't actually realise that.
Yeah. So I thought that was quite interesting, because I know Taxi Driver is such a like massive film now, isn't it? People, you know, it's a classic, isn't it? But then I suppose Rocky's in the same category, really, isn't it?
I'd say, yeah, as soon as someone says about like classic films and things like Taxi Driver and The Godfather and things like that come up, you don't necessarily think of Rocky as being, you know, I suppose it is a massive film, but yeah, I don't know if I'd put it, you know, in kind of the same category as what you'd put those kind of films in.
Yeah, I think that's what I was trying to say, yeah. And so that's why I was quite surprised that it won over Taxi Driver. But yeah, I mean, I think, like I say, he suits the role very well. He's a very likeable character, isn't he, Rocky? And I think people can sort of relate to him quite a lot. I think that's quite. You know,
I think that's quite the interesting thing about his character, really, because he's not necessarily. I suppose he is.
But he comes across as this like he works for that loan shark, doesn't he? And he comes across as, he has to go to those people to get the money, and the guy he's working for wants him to break that guy's thumbs, doesn't he? And he won't do it. Like, he's a bit of a friendly giant, isn't he? Sort of thing.
I suppose that shows compassion, doesn't it, in his character, which makes you like him a bit. But it's funny because he still kind of comes across as being, I don't know, when you see him at the start of the film, there's, you see him in like the initial fight, and then he goes back to his apartment, and obviously he's on his own, he's a bit of a loner and things, and then he's just doing what he can, can't he, to like get money and things like that. Make ends meet,
yeah.
But it's not necessarily like good things that he's doing and that he's going out to do, so it's well done, isn't it? The way that they kind of draw the audience in to make you like him as a character, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Given the circumstances.
I mean, I know what you mean by that, actually. Like, he's going out and, like I said, he's working for that loan shark, doing those jobs and things like that. But, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I think, he is just a very likeable character. He doesn't, like I say, he's not like I said, with the one guy, he's not beating him up or anything like that, is he? He's just like, he's almost wants to be nice to him, doesn't he? When he's getting the money from him, he almost...
Yeah, he hasn't got. He hasn't sort of got a choice, has he? In the way that he's making his money, I suppose that's the only thing that. Because it's funny. I think it's in the second one. He goes in to get the job, and he says to the guy working behind the desk, he's like, "Oh, I want to do something like what you're doing, sort of behind the desk." And the guy is just like, "You're a boxer. You're not. You'd never work somewhere like this." And I think that's true, right from the beginning, really. That's what he's built for, isn't he? He's built for that kind of world, I think. Yeah, and also, like, when his pets that he's got, when he's talking to them, isn't he? When he's feeding them and he's saying, if I could sing and dance, if I had a brain or something like that, or if I could sing and dance, I wouldn't have to fight, doesn't he? Yeah, that's
almost
true.
Like he thinks fighting's his only option, in a way, like, because he hasn't got the brains or he hasn't got the talent to do anything else. It's like, he feels fighting's his thing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
that's what he's built for.
The other thing as well, like, I find in the first one, I think less so in probably from about number 3 onwards. I think the second one's kind of the same, but I find that a lot of the other characters in the Rocky universe, no one's very nice to Rocky, are they? Like, everyone's like having a dig or like talking down to him, sort of thing. Especially, I mean, even like Mickey at the beginning, like, he sees him and he's not really interested in like small talk with him or anything, is he? And then he's just.
It seems like when he gets that, obviously, because he gets that shot, doesn't he, at the championship against Apollo. And it seems like when he gets that opportunity, it seems Mickey's suddenly interested, doesn't he? But because when he sees, when he gives his locker up in the gym, doesn't he? I
always thought that as well. Yeah, like all of a sudden Mickey's like really interested then, and I kind of thought, well, Rocky, he could have turned around to him at that point, couldn't he, and said, well, I don't want your help, sort of thing, which I suppose he does initially. Doesn't
he does in that scene, doesn't he? But I think he realises
come in here,
that...
that's right, it stinks. And he goes right after him, doesn't he?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But,
oh God! But I think he realises that, because obviously he needs some sort of management, and he probably wants Mickey to manage him, really. But like, Mickey never showed him that interest before. Like he says, when he comes to the gym and his locker's.
Well, he's put his stuff in a bag on Skid Row.
Yeah, he's on Skid Row. We're doing it, Mickey. It could have been good, Rocky. Could have been good.
Because Mick doesn't like the fact that he's working for that loan shark either, does he? Because he says to him,
but I think it is quite weird. It's like, because obviously he's supposed to be about 30 or so, isn't he, Rocky? So that's quite late in his career, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
he's
like
sort of gone past
he said,
it, hasn't
like Mickey said, like you could have been good and all this, but but Mickey never gave him the chance, really. Until he got until he gets the chance against Apollo Creed for the fight for the championship belt. Mickey, do you know what I mean? Never gave him that chance really before, did he? I suppose. Like,
yeah, well, I don't know, because I think you sort of get a sense there's obviously history there between Rocky and Micky before we see them in the initial film, and I think you get a sense that maybe Micky did give him a chance earlier. Well,
that'll be the next one, a prequel.
Yeah, well, I don't know how much of a chance maybe Micky did give him, but yeah, it almost seemed because maybe Rocky was getting easy money from doing what he was doing, maybe he did that a little bit more than the boxing, and maybe that's what, because there must have been some sort of reason why Micky didn't mentor him and train him from the beginning. And that's the only thing that I can
find
think,
out the 100% reason behind it. Yeah, I suppose, but that's what makes it seem like when he does get that opportunity that he suddenly seems interested. But
yeah,
I mean, another thing about the film I find, like, what I like about it is that it is a boxing film, but there isn't a lot of boxing in it, is there?
Yeah,
like,
one of the best lines I think I heard, it was a review or something like that, but they just said, it's a boxing film, but it's not about boxing. And I always just thought, how did they manage that? How did they manage that in the writing and in the actual making of the film? Because it's about the characters, isn't it? It's about the people.
Yeah,
and whenever I've recommended it to
yeah.
people that have never seen it before, they sort of think, oh, Rocky, what? I think they get it mixed up with Rambo and things like that sometimes as well. And they're like, oh, I'm not going to be interested in that kind of film. It's just like some sort of second-rate film. And it's like, no, seriously, you've got to watch it because there's so much more depth to the film than what you think it is. I think unless you actually sit down and watch it, it's. I think there's a lot more to it than what people think initially.
Sorry, you said it's more about the characters. Like, I think, because I actually rewatched it the other day, and I think there's hardly a scene that Rocky's not in it.
Yeah,
like, nearly every shot Rocky's in the film, and obviously his relationship with Adrian. It's, and the thing is, like, Rocky can't. He's not actually. His boxing skills aren't actually that good, are they? Like, it's more that he's got heart, hasn't he? He's got.
He won't give up, will he?
He won't give up. Yeah, he gets knocked down and get back up, and he's a hard hitter. But his actual boxing style, at the beginning when he's fighting that Spider Rico.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's, you watch him fighting, it's like.
Yeah. He's not portrayed at the beginning. At the beginning of the film, he's not a champion at the beginning, is he? He's fighting, but yeah, he's just sort of, he's the same as all the other fighters. Really, there's nothing really stand out about him, I guess, apart from his name, which again was just, it was a 1 in a million shot, wasn't it?
The Italian Stallion, because obviously when Apollo came up with the idea, no one would fight Apollo, would they? Like, they were all sort of. They're making excuses, but really it sort of seems like they were too scared to go up against him.
Yeah.
So then he came up with the idea of obviously giving like an underdog a shot at the title. And like you said, it was the name. It was the Italian Stallion that stood out to him. So like, it was that one in a God knows what chance of like it being him. But and obviously Apollo thinks like, oh, it's going to be a walk in the park, doesn't he?
Yeah. He thinks it's just going to be a promotional fight for himself, really, doesn't he?
Yeah, but obviously, and because no one's ever gone the distance with Apollo, have they? So
that's right.
With Rocky, I think it's almost like he doesn't want to win necessarily. He just wants to go the distance. He just wants to prove that, like, I think he wants to prove a point, doesn't he? That he is a good fighter and he's not just an average boxer. Yeah. And if he can go the distance against Apollo, which no one else has done before, like the champion, then that's proven a massive point. You know what I mean? It's
both personally and like professionally as a boxer and in his personal life, sort of thing. Because, like you said, everyone looks down on him. Everyone thinks he's a bum and he's no good. But he knows in himself that actually he's better than that.
Yeah, because everyone looks at exactly. People think when he's fought other fight people, they don't respect him. They don't think. You never make. He's not a good boxer, and so I think he wants to prove to everyone that, if he can just go the distance with Apollo.
Because it's not even about winning for him, really, is it? When he gets into that fight, it's not even.
I don't think it is.
I don't think. In the first and in the second one, I think it's not about the winning. It's about, it's about the heart and the fire, like what he says in number 5. It's about just getting in there, and as long as he gives it his all, then that's good enough. That's good enough for him.
And right at the end, like, you know, when I think it's when the bell rings of the last round, like you hear them talking to each other, and he goes, "There ain't gonna be no rematch. There ain't gonna be no rematch." And he goes, "Oh, 1-1," or something like that. I can't remember what he said, something like that.
Yeah, no, he did. That's exactly it. That's exactly what he says. Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if they plan to make any more after that, because he obviously in the second one, then he goes on to fight him again, doesn't he? So like they're saying that, like, oh, they're going to be in a rematch, and so I'm just wondering, maybe they.
I don't think it was ever planned as a series of films, and I think that's what I like about each one of the sequels. They're, you know, and I think that's what differs with movies that are now, you know, that are made now. The Rocky films are very, you know, you can pick any one of them out and they stand on their own. Obviously, you know, you've got the beginning bits that, you know, it shows parts from the previous films, and, you know, it leads into where we are now. But all of them have an end point, don't they? Every single film individually, they all have their own sort of individual ending. You know, with you know, no chance of them going on for a sequel necessarily. But I think that's quite good in a way. That each one has got you know, quite a well-rounded ending, I think.
Yeah, I think like after the first one, they definitely weren't sure about making more, and then maybe not even after the second, but I think it got to a point where it got quite big, Rocky, didn't it? And I think they probably sort of had an idea they probably were going to make more, but yeah, I do sort of understand what you're saying about that. But yeah. I think growing, because obviously I watched Rocky growing up as a massive part of my growing up. I used to, you know, I was quite young when I first saw the Rockies, and over the years I've watched them many times, but I think I didn't appreciate the first Rocky when I first saw it as much, because I was a lot younger then. I think I saw Rocky 4 first, actually. I think that was the first
yeah,
one I saw.
Same, and I think that's the one that I've seen the most, I think, as well.
Yeah, and I think that because I was younger at the time, I was very young, so I thought, like, it's more about the boxing, the fighting's more over the top, it's got all the music, do you know what I mean? It's
definitely.
not so I think that's why. But then as I got older, obviously I appreciated 1 and 2 more, and actually they are my favourite now. Like one's my favourite and 2's my second, so they're actually. But yeah, I think
you look for different things, don't you? When you're younger, like, you know, just the action, and, you know, you're looking for that.
Yeah, that's what you want. Yeah, you don't really think about.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you'd find it more boring, wouldn't you?
That's right. You're looking more then for, you know, the story and other elements of it. And the other part I think that works really well in the Rocky films is, you know, Rocky's interactions with other characters as well. You know, take for example Paulie. You know, everyone kind of looks on him as being he's almost in a similar situation to Rocky, really, isn't he? He's kind of a bit of a bum, he's a drunk and things like that. But yeah, Rocky never looks at him like that, I think.
I'm not sure if that's a respect, because I think, I'm not sure if that's a respect thing, because even when, you know, because he likes Adrian, doesn't he? And obviously is that her brother? I can't remember, is it?
Yeah, they're brother and sister.
Yeah, and right. Even when he sees Polly treating Adrian quite bad, he doesn't really say anything, does he?
Yeah, you know, like with the turkey.
Yeah, he just sort of sits there. Like,
that's always a standout scene.
Yeah. The turkey!
Go eat the turkey! I know. And then Rocky, doesn't he go down to the end of the corridor and he still gets her to come out or something?
Yeah, he's
standing by the door, isn't he? Come on, I feel like a Kentucky Fried Idiot. Oh no, that's the second one, isn't it? When he's chasing the chicken.
Another thing I was going to say about what I quite like about the first one is that you don't really know if he's going to. But it's unpredictable, isn't it? The ending, because you don't really know if he's going to win the fight. You never think, oh, he's definitely going to win this fight. You don't really know who's going to win it, do you? Until
I don't know if at the time, I don't really know how, because obviously stories change over time, don't they? And I don't know if in 1976 it would have been, you know, typical of the audience to kind of think, oh, well, it's obvious the hero is going to win this. You know, and I don't know if that was almost like a bit of a twist ending where actually they're both left standing and there isn't really a definitive winner, you know?
Well, that's another thing I was going to say, because even though, like, Apollo wins, like, he feels like he hasn't won in a way, doesn't he? But then Rocky loses, but he feels like he's won. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's he feels like he's won, doesn't he, Rocky? But then
that's true, actually. Yeah, it's almost opposites, isn't it, of what was supposed to happen?
Yeah, but even though like Apollo's won, he's not happy, is he? Because I think he says like, I beat him, but I didn't win.
That's right, and then Apollo in the second one, I suppose Apollo knows how much that's going to damage his career and things, isn't it? I mean, you kind of see it with boxing now and things, don't you? Like people, boxers come out of retirement and things, and then they get beaten or something, and it's kind of frowned upon, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it sort of did damage his career, really. I mean, I suppose the only thing to sort of bring it back on track would be to beat Rocky, like I said, in the second one, he wants the rematch. I suppose to actually beat him properly, like knock him out, that would sort of prove that it was just a fluke maybe the first time, but no, beats him again.
I
know, should have done this.
It's the second one, isn't it, where they both go down in the ring and then they're like fighting to get up, and then Rocky gets up on like 9 or something.
I suppose in a way it's a similar fight to the first time, because it was very close then, wasn't it? Because at the end he's beating in the ribs, isn't he? And like he's getting, they're all sort of both going at each other, both sort of tired and just waiting for the bell to ring, really, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, in the last round. I was just looking here. I mean, you mentioned earlier about the amount of like Oscars and things. That it won 3. It won 3 Oscars, but it was nominated for loads. I mean, it won Best Picture. It won Best Director. Sylvester Stallone was nominated for Best Actor. Yeah,
Best Actor. Yeah, I read that.
Yeah, Talia Shire nominated Best Actress, Best Original Screenplay. It was nominated. Best Supporting Actor, Burgess Meredith, Burt Young. Best Film Editing, it won that one, and then Best Music, it was nominated, and Best Sound, it was nominated as well. Like it's unbelievable, really, isn't it? The amount that it was.
It is really, yeah. I think the music, once again, that's another thing. The music's iconic now. Like it's for all of them, isn't it? Like with that, you have that big Rocky writing at the beginning, and that same music, and it's whenever you hear that music, it just reminds you, obviously, of Rocky, doesn't it? You just think of Rocky straight away. But,
it almost sounds corny to say, but Rocky almost stands as a film. It almost stands on the on the same legs as what the character does. Really, it was like this script that no one really wanted and was kind of being passed around. They were like, "Oh no, Sylvester Stallone, you're not quite right for it. We want somebody else and things." And then all of a sudden it goes on to be massive, and it's almost done the same as what as what the character's done in the film. Almost.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that. Another thing is the amount of boxing films that have been made. I think it's the most sports films that have been made are boxing films. And if you think about it, that was how many years ago that was made, and that's still one of my favourite, if not my favourite films, boxing films, Rocky. So that says something as well, I think, from the amount of boxing films that have actually been made.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's some really good other boxing films out there, some really good ones, but Rocky's one of my favourites. But yeah, going back to, like you said, he was nominated for Best Actor. It's quite interesting to know who he was against, but I reckon it might have been Robert De Niro again in Taxi Driver. I reckon he might have won it.
Yeah, can you imagine? Yeah, I don't know. That would have been quite interesting to know. Yeah, I'm not sure what other films. I mean, if you said Taxi Driver was up, then it's possible that he could well have been.
Especially with Robert De Niro as well, because obviously I know he's...
Yeah. And De Niro would have been massive at the time as well.
Yeah, so...
The one thing that did shock me about the film, actually, when I first saw it, because I think, like you said, I'd seen Rocky 4 first, and then I remember seeing the first Rocky. It was on TV, but I remember they put it on really late. I think it started at like 11 o'clock at night, and I remember watching it, and the end fight it
seemed longer.
It's not gruesome, but it gets quite bloody, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does actually. I think, and once again, I think that in the first 2 films, the fight's slightly more realistic, isn't it?
Yeah,
that it's got more of a realistic feel to it. Because I know, obviously, they can't make it. They have to put a bit of action in it. It can't be too sort of like. But I think as they went on, they got really brutal, didn't they?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they became more and more over the top, didn't they? But yeah,
like with the Russian.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but like with the first one, I remember like Rocky being in the corner and stuff, and his eye is like all swollen and stuff, and then he's like, "Cubby Mick." Get like a razor blade and cut it. I mean, you watch it now and you kind of think, oh yeah, that's like, the effects aren't that great. But I remember at the time thinking, oh, this film, it must be like a 15 or something, because especially because they put it on TV so late as well. And I was quite surprised to learn that it was a PG at the time. I thought, it's. But I suppose that's the only. Yeah. That's kind of the only bit, isn't it? Outside of that, it's all training and.
Yeah, that's the only bit of sort of blood and gruesome bits, I suppose, is that. But I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah.
Never really thought of that before, but
I remember
bloody at the end.
I can't believe that. I mean, how old is it now? It was 76, wasn't it? So, I mean, on my shelf here, I've got the 25th anniversary special edition, and that's on DVD. And I can't believe, like, since that, I remember buying that, and I can't believe that it's been another 15 years since that's been out. It's just. Yeah, it just.
I know, it's crazy. It's unbelievable how quick time goes,
it doesn't seem like it should be that old, really.
15 years, Jesus. I know. It's crazy.
Okay, so the other thing I was going to say about is like how it's quite funny, the film. I think, like with Sylvester Stallone as Rocky, he comes across like he's not the brightest character. I think we touched on it at the beginning when we were talking about the jobs that he can do and things like that. But some of the things, like, I think obviously it's not supposed to be a comedy. It's more of kind of a drama, isn't it? And a character study. But it's.
But I think that's because, like you said, because he's that sort of character. It's not, like you said, it's not trying to be funny, but because he's he comes across a bit silly, like a bit stupid sometimes, doesn't he? So I think that makes it a bit funny. Like sometimes some of the things he says,
and Paulie as well.
Do you know what I mean?
Because he's drunk and like I think they. And Burgess Meredith in it as Mickey, he's obviously supposed to be like really grumpy, isn't he? And like, he's
like when they're training, some of the things he says whilst they're training, like I can't remember what they were. But they are quite funny.
Like they asked at the press conference, they ask Rocky, don't they? They say, "Oh, what are you going to do with what are you going to do with the money on the fight?" And he gets like out like his list, doesn't he? And he starts saying like, he's going to get like Kermit and stuff. And it's like Mickey's probably thinking like, "What's he on about?"
I know, because you got because Apollo's supposed to. I think they've sort of based him on Muhammad Ali, haven't they? His character, he's very sort of like.
He's a businessman, isn't he? He's been in the industry for a long time, hasn't he? And obviously because he says that he stand up and he's like, "Does this look like a circus to you?"
So like I said, you've got in the press conference, like you were saying, you've got Apollo talking all this stuff, and then when it goes to Rocky, he's like, "You don't know, you know what I mean?" Like,
yeah.
But another thing I was going to say actually is that I think it was to do with budget, but that scene in the ice skating rink when he takes her on the date.
Yeah.
Apparently that wasn't going to be shot like that. Apparently they were going to do it in the day when. Obviously when other people were there, but because they didn't have the budget, that's why they came up with the idea of doing it
like they couldn't afford to pay people.
Yeah, so it's just, I don't know, I mean, that's just a little fact.
In a way, though, in a way, I think that kind of adds to that. It makes that scene a little bit better, though. I think. Because
I thought that after.
It shows it's a little bit of character for Rocky, isn't it? That he's willing to sort of spend a bit of extra money to, make the evening good, or it's something that he said that they were going to do, so they go and do it, and the fact that it's just them going around, I think it works quite well. I don't know how it would have worked. They probably would have ended up skating around, then they would have been stood on the side or something having the conversation, and you'd have seen people in the background. But I don't know if that would have worked as well, really.
I think that it definitely works better like that. I think sometimes when these things happen by accident, sometimes they come out better, don't they? I think they probably thought after actually, it's worked out better like that we couldn't, do how we wanted to do it.
I think so.
And also it was. I think it was supposed to have a different ending as well, wasn't it? I don't know if that had an alternate ending, or I think he was supposed to. They came up with the idea of him throwing the fight or something like that, and then saying he wasn't going to box again, and then.
Oh really?
Yeah, apparently.
I wonder why that was though. Why?
I don't know. I suppose that they. Because I think when Sylvester Stallone wrote it, I think there's quite a lot of things that are different. I think he wrote it in the space of I don't know how. I wrote it down actually. Because obviously Sylvester Stallone wrote the the script and everything, apparently it only took him 3.5 days for the first draft.
Really?
Yeah, so I think from the initial draft, a lot of things were changed in the end. Yes, that's what I'm saying about the ending.
Yeah, I suppose they had more time to think about it, as they were developing it and things. But that wouldn't have suited the sort of character at all. Like everything we've been saying about the Rocky character and things, like that doesn't fit at all. If he was just going to throw the fight at the end.
Yeah, I think that once again, because I think originally they had a different interpretation of what the character was going to be like, and I think apparently Apollo Creed was going to be Jamaican or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few little things that they changed, yeah. But I suppose that happens quite a lot anyway, doesn't it? In lots of films, they probably change the sort of story around.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I suppose because you only ever see the final product, that's the only thing that you've got to judge it by. And then when you hear these stories after, you kind of think, oh, that wouldn't have worked. But actually, if you'd seen them initially, then... you can't sort of imagine it any other way, almost,
One thing, I know we're not really supposed to delve into the other films, but, obviously, he sort of ends where he starts, so I always find that quite sad. Like, when...
Yeah, from the last one in Rocky Balboa.
Yeah, because he sort of like, he builds his fortune up. And I know he didn't originally do that to begin with for that reason, but... Because obviously, in the first one, he's from, like, the quite... rough sort of side of Philadelphia, isn't he? Like he lives in quite a sort of rough area in Philadelphia, and then he sort of like I said, he becomes the champion and wins quite a lot of money, and he manages to, he's got that nice house and all this sort of thing, and then it sort of ends up back where he started at the end, doesn't he? Which I always found was quite...
Yeah, absolutely. And in, his story continues in Creed, doesn't it? And then I guess it will, continue on again in Creed 2.
Yeah,
where
but I haven't actually seen that yet, though, Creed. I have to see it.
Oh, really?
I wasn't that bothered, because I almost thought, what more can they really do with it? And I thought it's just going to be a repeat of the first one or the second, it's sort of been done, but now I mean, because I rewatched Rocky again, I probably wouldn't mind seeing it actually, just to see what it's like.
So I really like Creed. I thought it was really well done actually, and I like the character of Creed, and the Rocky character in that again. It worked really well as a film. I think I'm quite looking forward to a second one. I can't wait to see it. I think it'd be really good. But
yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about it. I've heard it's got really good reviews, and so I haven't really heard a bad thing about it. It's just that I never was that interested, because I like I said, I like the Rockies, and I just thought, when they brought out Rocky 6, I sort of nearly didn't see that. I thought, what, how many...
Yeah, it's another one that they're bringing out, sort of thing. Yeah.
But, Rocky 5, because obviously after Rocky 4,
yeah,
that's when he loses the money, isn't it? And even though I like Rocky 5, I think it's quite different compared to the rest, because obviously they already made 4, so you think, 5, what can they do? But it's just, I just find that aspect of him losing the money quite sad. But
yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah, because he's back to, but I suppose he's different as a character as well, though, isn't he? By the time he gets to number 4 and 5, I think he's almost sort of like, he's wised up to a lot of things, isn't he? And he doesn't seem as sort of, I don't know, he seems a bit smarter in the world and things, doesn't he? And like he's obviously got the money and things like that. But yeah, I do know what you mean, to kind of go back to the start again. But I suppose it does happen, and that's part of the Rocky journey, I guess.
Another thing I found was quite sad about the 6th one is that that Adrian's dies, doesn't she?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm just wondering if that's because she didn't want to be in it anymore, or just because he thought...
Yeah, I think I heard at the time that his initial draft, she was in it, but he felt that there wasn't enough sort of conflict and drama. He didn't feel like there was quite enough in there, so he felt
it might be a bit pointless to put her back in. A bit of a pointless character to bring back in. Maybe he thought it would work better like that. It makes sense actually. I think you did mention about the grainy sort of look of it, because I know what you mean. I agree with that. I think it's not something you get so much with modern films now, is it? I think when you watch these older films like Rocky, I was thinking that when I saw it, it's got that sort of feel about it, hasn't it? When you watch the like you said, the cinematography, like that sort of grainy look, the sort of it's got like a very real sort of feel to it, hasn't it?
Yeah, it
I
has.
think.
Yeah, and like the way, even just like the way that it's filmed and things. It's not. I don't know. It's very close and intimate with the characters. I think, isn't it? The way that it's shot, it's quite clever. I think.
But also, I think because it's not so smooth looking, because obviously now, like, you know, it's you got like 4K and all that sort of thing, and I just reckon that helps to make it look real. The fact that it doesn't look perfect.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the older versions of the film on like DVD and video and things, they add to the charm of the film more so than what it would if you had like a 4K version of it that was all cleaned up and
obviously at the time they didn't mean to do that because that's all they had to do it with. Do you know what I mean? But when you look back at it now, it just does look more real. I just wonder if in the future they say that about now, like when when they look back at the films now and go, "They're more of a real look." Like,
that's right. Yeah. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. You've been listening to Daryl and Dan, and this has been the Boo Woo Movie Review.